This is the 2016 Lexus RX, which is Lexus's highest selling vehicle of all time. It is their mid-size luxury SUV, and it sits above the slightly smaller NX and below the larger LX, and it sits next to the GX, which is the more off-roady version of this more urban orientated mid-size SUV. Now this one here is the 450h, which is the hybrid paired with the 3.5 litre V6, and this one is also equipped with the luxury package, so it is loaded with features. Let's check this car out.
Lexus was definitely not playing it safe with this design, especially compared to the previous generation. There's lots of harsh creases and sharp edges. There's the big spindle grille, triple beam LED headlamps with the sequential indicators. But personally, I love it. It really catches your eye, especially in this Matador red mica colour. And it still looks modern despite being a 10-year-old design. The front and the back look great, but I think the side profile with its creases makes this truly stand out compared to other mid-size SUVs.
First thing you notice when you drive the RX is just how smooth it is. And that's compliments to the combination of the hybrid drivetrain and this very smooth 3.5 litre V6. And it just glides over the bumps. And the cabin in this car is really interesting actually. Overall, it's positive. Overall, you're first greeted with very nice materials and very nice curves and angles in the dashboard and lots of contrast stitching and this little pinstripe pattern here on the wood grain. It does feel very, very premium.
There's also some ambient lighting in the cabin as well, but Lexus really likes to keep the ambient lighting subtle. There's no colour, it's not very bright, and it's only in a few places.
Now Lexus does seats very, very well. And now this is the luxury model, which has these beautiful seats with thigh extension support and lumbar support and all the normal stuff. But if you get the F Sport version, you actually get, I would say, a worse seat. Yes, you can get it in the nice red leather, but I do believe that these are more comfortable, more premium than the F Sport red seats. Now, in the back seat, again, there's a ton of legroom in the back seat. It's fantastic. And there's no hump in the middle. So anybody sitting in the middle of the back row is going to feel fairly comfortable. I mean, as comfortable as you can get in the middle of a bench seat in the back of a car. You also got heated rear seats as well in this luxury model. And also what's really cool is that the back seats are electronic as well. So you can actually change the incline with an electronic control on the side. And those controls also can fully fold the seats down to give you more cargo space. And you've also got controls in the boot to electronically lower and raise the back seats, which is great. And in the boot, there's honestly so much space in there. There's no compromises in this car. They did introduce a slightly longer version of the RX, I think in 2019, and you do get a third row with the longer version, but it's only an inch or two longer than the non-L version. So you do get a third row, but you don't actually get a lot more extra space in the back.
This RX is equipped with the range-topping 15-speaker Mark Levinson premium surround sound system. The soundstage in this car is very impressive, and there's a very good frequency response across the whole range. The true mark of a quality sound system is that if it's tuned well from the factory and it has good quality drivers, amplifier and a DAC, then you do not need to over EQ it to compensate for poor frequency response. So I left the EQ pretty much flat and it sounded incredible. And even if you get the standard sound system, it also sounds well above average because Lexus does sound systems incredibly well.
Now with the interior, the switchgear, I gotta say Lexus, it's not the worst, but it's this is where I would say Mercedes, your Volvos, they do a bit better with switchgear compared to Lexus. The other issue I have with this interior and all the switchgear is this main center stack area here. There's a whole lot of buttons, and they're all exactly the same size and shape, and it's in a grid-like pattern, which means you have to look at it to know what you're going to press. Even if you've driven this car for a while, the temperature ones are a bit easier because they're on the edges and they've got colour on them, but the fan speed is right in the middle. To change the airflow mode from your face to your legs, etc., that's like nested in the middle of all these buttons, and I think other manufacturers do a better job at the layout of controls you've got here in the center stack. On the plus side though, there are lots of buttons and lots of cool features here, which is great. And again, this luxury model here is very, very well equipped. You do get, in this model, both heated and ventilated front seats. It always surprises me that even a lot of modern European cars, it's actually quite, well, at least here in New Zealand, it's quite hard finding models that come with ventilated seats. I know a lot of models do come with it as an option, but at least in the used car market here in New Zealand, there's really not many that come with ventilated seats. Whereas when you buy a Lexus here, man, most of them, I'd say 75% or so have ventilated seats. This general area here though does work fairly well, other than the comments I made about the button layout. The armrest is nice and wide. You've got space for both the front passenger and the driver, and you've also got cup holders in a good placement as well. They're a nice big size, they're not blocking any buttons, they're not blocking your armrest area. And down here you've got your drive mode selector. Now the drive mode selector, I think in Lexus cars, is the most intuitive drive mode selector, and the reason is that it's a rotary dial. But this one, if you press it, you go to normal mode. You rotate it left, you go to eco mode. You rotate it right, you go to sport mode. You rotate it right again, you get Sport Plus. In my Mercedes C-Class, if I'm in my individual driving mode and I want to go to comfort, I've got to go and toggle through all the other modes first. I've got to go through Sport Plus, and then Sport, and then Comfort, and then even Eco. With this design here, you're always one switch away, except for Sport Plus, from the mode that you want. It just works so much better. Now, in saying that, the normal driving mode does feel quite sluggish. I've got to say, even though it's a fairly large engine, it's a hybrid, so you've got some instant torque behind you, the normal mode feels sluggish. The Sport mode is a bit better, but I find myself driving in Sport Plus most of the time. Now, speaking of Sport Plus, models that come with a Sport Plus mode, and you can tell because down here it'll say Sport Plus. Those models, which is the luxury models and the F Sport models, but not the base models. Models with S Plus means that as well as adjusting the throttle timing and the gear changing, which actually in this car, it's an eCVT, so there are no gears, but what it means is that it also has adaptive suspension and also variable gear ratio steering. So of course that just means that the ride gets firmer, the steering gets tighter. But I have to say, in Lexus cars, honestly, I find their adaptive suspension and their variable gear ratio steering to not make a huge difference. I really can't tell that much, to be honest. It's still a very smooth ride in Sport Plus, and the steering is still relatively light in Sport Plus. So there you go. Now, one pro about the adaptive suspension in Lexus cars is that they're actually a very simple design. It's a very simple solenoid that sits on top of the strut that just flicks over and changes the dampening rates. There's no complicated air suspension and other things. It's just an on-off switch. It's a very simple way of implementing this feature, which means, of course, it's just more reliable, and you know, if you have to repair it or fix it or replace it, it's not too expensive.
Now, over the past week, with a combination of city and highway driving, I managed to average 8.1 litres per 100 kilometres, which is a fairly impressive figure when you consider the size and weight of the car and the 3.5 litre V6 engine. The hybrid system does work well in urban driving, and not only do you save fuel, you also enjoy a quiet and smooth drive.
This model here is also equipped with a head-up display, and I actually really like the HUD. I mean, I always like a HUD, but one reason why I like it in this car, being a hybrid, is the fact that I can use it to tell whether the petrol engine is on or off. If you've got different things on your screens here, so for example, if I'm in normal mode in my gauge cluster here, I can't actually tell whether the engine's on or off. This car is also loaded with heaps of driver tech assist features. You've got all the normal stuff. You've got radar cruise, frontal collision detection and braking. Now it's got lane keep assist, but I've got to say, Lexus's lane keep assist, at least 10 years ago, it's not that impressive, to be honest. It will obviously beep at you when you depart from the lane, but don't expect it to do much, you know, steering for you. It really is quite primitive compared to the other competitors out there. The radar cruise in this car, and probably I would say in most Lexus cars from this era, it's okay. When you're cruising on the highway, the radar cruise is fine. This one does have all-speed radar cruise, so it will work in start and stop traffic. But I do find it's fairly conservative. It does leave quite a large distance between you and the car in front of you, even on its lowest setting. So, you know, it works, it's pretty good, but not as good as, I would say, the European competition. You've got your blind spot monitoring, you've got your 360-degree camera as well, which is very handy. In fact, one thing I really like about the 360-degree camera is the fact that it's got an automatic mode. And what that does is it automatically turns on the cameras when you go below 10 kilometers an hour. You know, if you're trying to go through a tight street, the fact that it comes on automatically is just really, really handy. Now the gauge cluster. Lexus, I think, they do very, very clean and very elegant gauge clusters. It's got an LCD screen in the very middle, and it actually works fairly well. It's very basic. It does your music, does your navigation, it does, you know, your driver assist tech stuff and other, you know, your normal trip computer and all of that. And I find it's probably one of the easiest to use. When you change into sport mode or sport plus mode, your eco gauge then changes to a traditional tachometer. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, the general driving experience in this car is, yeah, it is really nice. It's not a driver-focused, you know, hardcore drive. It's a relatively smooth and sedate and comfortable drive. And obviously, being a hybrid, you do get your, you know, decent fuel economy as well. You're also going to be very happy because you know it's a Lexus, you know it's got that reliability, and they've been doing hybrids for the longest time. If you think about, obviously it's a shared platform, shared drivetrain as Toyota products as well, and so of course they've actually had hybrids since the late 90s, believe it or not. So they know their hybrids well. So that's the RX. It's an impressive car that comes loaded with features. It's incredibly comfy and very spacious inside. You've got a lot of cargo room. You've got a fantastic sound system and a very comfortable soft ride. Again, this car is for sale. If you are interested, speak to the guys at GVI down in Penrose in Auckland. And again, a big thank you to those guys for allowing us to take this car out and review it and hopefully give you guys some helpful information. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.